What's up? I was browsing my news feeds and I ran into a sports article about running back Kareem Hunt. As most of y'all have heard, he got caught up in a situation with some thoughts in the hotel, and it was all caught on camera. And of course, we know how this story ended. Kansas City Chiefs cut him, pretty much put his career in jeopardy, and of course, hashtag Me Too and the Gynocracy dogs came running after him, and we already know what happened after that. So, but then I read the Cleveland Browns decided to pick him up. They signed him to a 1 year, believes maybe $1 million deal, which is pretty safe and cheap for NFL standards. I believe what they're trying to do is pretty much give him a chance. They do know that they're getting more product than what they're paying for, and the franchise is in the shitter, honestly. So I mean, they're trying to roll the dice on anything right now. But what this video is going to be about is the reaction, and I'm not talking about the reaction from women. It saddens me is the reaction from men. You have these effeminate acting simp bitch guys, right? Come going on Twitter, um, virtue signaling to feminism, kissing women's asses, talking about this guy doesn't deserve blah 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 or whatever the case because he put his hand on a woman. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that I condone these things. What I'm saying is this: these men, sometimes you have to sit back and ask yourself, what the fuck were you doing between the ages of 16 and 25? Every human is flawed. Every man is flawed. What the fuck were you doing between the ages of 16 and 24? And I can guarantee you this: you wasn't walking around carrying a cross and throwing rice on the fucking floor and going to church 3 days a week. Most of us were out there being humans, making mistakes. We all do them. Everyone makes freaking mistakes. But what pisses me off with men is, well, these effeminate bitch guys, is these same guys that are talking, who knows, maybe things are going well in their life, but, unless you're born through a rich inheritance, most of the time what you achieve in life, you have to pretty much go through a lot of ups and downs. And for you to get to the ups is something, a quality that you have that every guy must have in order to get out of the gutter. And that is fucking redemption. You have to redeem yourself. If you're at a level that you're happy with, you're comfortable with, or you're pretty much climbing, still trying to get to a certain level, but you're still better than what you were situation you were in maybe when you were 18 or 19. What happened is you had to redeem yourself a lot. If you were fired from a job, instead of you sitting there unemployed, you had to eventually find another one, hopefully the same or better, and had to redeem yourself from that failure. And it kills me. This is the problem, and this is why feminism is always in our faces. It's because it's not just the women. You have these guys constantly fanning the flames. If these women who claim that they're so strong and independent and powerful, why don't these men let these women deal with their own issues? Why the fuck is it there's always these effeminate beta acting stupid guys that always feel like when it comes to women's issue, they have to come in and they have to stick their neck in the door in order to get their head rubbed. This issue is about women and whatever grievances they have with the video that they saw. Why is it that there's men commenting on Twitter talking about, this guy doesn't deserve another chance? For goodness sake, the guy's fucking 22, 23 years old. That's why I asked, what were you doing at 16 to 24? Should this guy's life be ruined at 22, 23 years old over a lapse of judgment? For the Red Pill guys, the video that we saw, I saw skanks written all over these chicks. Skank was written all over them. He's an athlete, and you already know how the story ends. Why do we have so many men willing to throw other men under the bus, not only for some ass, but just to get your head a fucking thumbs up? Some of these guys are just getting thumbs up from some of these women. And this is the problem. I am very shocked that men forget the quality of redemption. Men forget how every single last one of us needs it. Men forget about the redemption of, let's just say, a great like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan won 3 straight championships. His father got murdered. He went through an emotional hiatus, went to baseball, came back to basketball, made it to the playoffs. He failed. So what did he have to do? He had to redeem himself because people thought that, all right, well, maybe he's just not the same player he was because he took so much time off. He had to fucking redeem himself. Robert Downey fucking Jr. We remember him. Robert Downey Jr. was more concerned with crack than movies. He was a drug addict. I believe they sentenced him to prison for a couple years. I believe they released him early. But we're talking about Robert Downey Jr. We're talking about, Tony Stark, Iron Man, this Marvel classic. This guy was a crackhead. His life spiraled out of control for the worse. What got him to where he is? Redemption. Malcolm X, what about him? Before he was a black activist, he was an inmate. Not at your local county jail either. We're talking he was a prison inmate. What would happen if we said, he should have never did it, and whatever the case, and we just left him there? Will we be talking about him today? Redemption. Donald Trump. I believe Donald Trump was in bankruptcy. Now, I don't want to hear people talk about, his family was rich and this and that. Listen. There is a lot of rich people that have millions of dollars that are still not billionaires. I mean, all we have to do is look at professional athletes. LeBron James is going on almost 20 years in the league, and he'll eventually be a billionaire, but he's not one now. This just lets you know how hard it is. Kobe Bryant's still not a billionaire. Michael Jordan had to become a billionaire outside of sports. That's just how freaking hard it is. Magic Johnson tested positive for HIV and AIDS in, I believe, the early 90s. We could have just wrote him off, right? Okay, the guy's sick, he's with an incurable disease. At that time, that was a death sentence. If you had HIV, AIDS, start just buy your casket. What is Magic Johnson now? A very successful businessman, and he's another example of redemption. Apple. One of the biggest, Steve Jobs, I have to say him, one of the biggest companies in the world. They were bankrupt. What happened? Should they say, well, okay, well, on to the next? Should we write them off? Write the company off? Write off Steve Jobs? Oh, he just doesn't have the juice. No, he got a chance to redeem himself. Redemption is a quality within men, a right that every man should have. Just like women need attention like oxygen, men have the fucking right to have a chance at redemption like fucking oxygen. Every guy. And it upsets me to see your fellow man, they're the first ones at the front line to sit here and throw another guy under the bus because they want to virtue signal to bitches. I believe this guy could have went in a corner store and murdered two men, and he would not have this type of blowback from other men as to an incident that happened in a lobby with a 22-year-old dealing with some fucking slut groupies. And I think that this is pathetic. Every man has a right to have a chance at redemption. This is how we got to where we are as a civilization. When we got into airspace, air traffic, how many planes do you think fell before we finally got one in the fucking air? That's redemption. How many buildings through natural disasters that had to fall, and how many people were killed until we got the right technology and engineering to get things up to code? That's what fucking redemption is. And for us to sit here and say, okay, well, everything else could redeem itself through tech, through engineering, through social issues, everything else. But when it comes to some fucking bitch or some freaking woman, no man has a right at redeeming himself. Casey Anthony could kill her kid. They're sitting here saying that this woman still deserves a second chance to make a life for herself. I believe she's about to go into production on a show. And she murdered her own kid. At some point, man, we got to open our eyes, man, and understand this. Most of the problem is, I understand guys can be a little fickle sometimes, especially those blue pill guys. I get it. I do understand. I understand the disdain that some guys have for their fellow man. But what I'm saying is this. I'm not saying to be like women, but if you notice, women hate each other. Guys, sometimes we have dislikes or we have disagreements. Women hate each other, okay? But guess what? When it comes time for them to represent their fellow female, they're not going to do the things that we do as men. Men in the past have not done this. So this is not, I hear some people talk about, well, it's a biological thing because men are individuals. Yes, they are. But I've seen enough documentaries and enough history pieces to see that, yes, guys are very combative. But I tell you fucking what, I did not see this type of behavior where, you have like all these SJW male feminists coming out. You don't even see the women. Like I'm going to leave an article in the description and just look at the names of a lot of those tweets that are in that article. Those are majority men, male. And I was also surfing the web looking at a lot of reactions to his signing. Yes, of course, you had a couple feminist women in there that, whatever the case, but it's overwhelmingly men. And secondly, why does the NFL, which is their product is 100% men, their audience, they like to say, "Oh well, their woman audience is growing." I think that that is bullshit. Anybody who's dated enough women know that the women don't really give two shits about sports. Now they will watch them if they're in the chameleon phase. You know, if you just met her and you say, "Hey, I like the New York Giants," you know, the stupid bitch will put on the Eli Manning jersey and don't even know what an offensive lineman is or what it does. That's just what they are. But to think that the NFL says that they're growing as far as a woman audience, I think that's just bullshit. Women don't give a fuck about sports. Women only care about reality TV, uh, uh, you know, freaking beauty pageants and a fucking designer uh, stage shows where they're showing off new Gucci and Louis Vuitton heels. They don't give a shit about any type of gladiator sports. A matter of fact, those are most of the things they shame men about is the way our gladiator gene is and how that's so destructive to the community and to society. So how the hell can they turn around and say, well, but guess what? I hate that about men, but I'll sit here and watch guys just ram each other heads like rams. The NFL and sports, period, male sports, why do we have to even cater to the female's opinion? The View's a fucking talk show, and let a guy feel like he can have an opinion on there. They'll eat his ass alive. And that's the fucking View. That's their space. Why is it men's spaces still have to cater to a female narrative? Why? You guys, excuse me. I'm just, you know, it kind of got under my skin a little bit. And like I said, this is not really the women, it's the men that are pretty much wishing hell on this guy for making a mistake or, you know, lapse of judgment at 22 or 23, which we all have. It's no such thing as a guy who hasn't. And to see, of course, he's not going to have any support from women, but to also see that he doesn't even have support from a large portion of his fellow man. And this is the thing that we got to work on, fellas. Like, you know, we're living in a gynocracy. No matter how you want to shape it, this gynocracy we live in is fueled because of men with this type of behavior. I just wanted to get that off my chest, and you guys take care. Comment your opinions below, like the video. I'm out.